Guys are at lunch. We got a 6-man crew here today. The storage bins, as we touch on in Florida, it can be hot. We want to keep, or anywhere really, you want to keep them in the shade at all costs. So you can see it's not always pretty at this point yet. This shade cloth has been probably being used for a decade or more, but it serves its purpose. And then what we've worked on in the last 2 years, we've come up with using weed mat just because it's a lot easier to hang. And we just kind of look at it as a cost of business for that year. We'll maybe repurpose it on a landscape job. The reality is probably not, but for $300 or $400, it makes this side, the sides go real well. And then we'll use the recycled shade cloth year over year. And again, we'll come back before we open and pretty it all up and make it tight. But it's crucial, excuse me, that we keep them in shade. And then you look at the bottom, we're right in grass. Some people will say put it in mulch. We found grass works just fine. Lucky enough to have water on site. We used to have to go from a fire hydrant, which is a pretty big cost and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but now we've got water on site through a well, so that water's free. But we actually water the trees once in the morning and once at night, and again, they're covered, so they're always in shade, but that's how we keep them chilled. And because the ground kind of gets that water, it absorbs it in. So that's really our focus. We'll walk over and look at the other bins. So these 6/7, 7/8, and maybe 8/9s, and then one bin of 4/5s. And we keep them color coordinated so it's easy to get them out when we're really busy. We talk about those weekends with 200, 300, 400 trees going out in a weekend. So it's important that we keep everything really busy. But we'll come look. The guys are just getting back at lunch, and we'll look at what it looks like before the shade cloth gets on there. So what I'm walking over right now is some of these are decade-old shade cloth, and again, repurposed from our garden center days to keep the plants shaded at certain times of year. But some of these are up to 90% shade cloth. That's what we try to put on the roofs. And then some are down to 50, and we'll actually double that up. The more shade, the better. And again, these things aren't looking pretty on a really good tear down year, and we'll focus on the tail down or tear down down the road. But right now, none of them got labeled for whatever reason by the teardown crew last year, so we just simply pull them out. And this crew here, we might get a shot to interview them, but most of them have been here multiple years, so they're pretty good at figuring out what's what, thankfully. But it is important that we label them. It makes it much easier for the setup the next year. So again, on the ground, we're sizing them to make sure we've got the right tarps. And these wood structures that were on the ground, nothing's pretty here, but it's, again, all about function, taking care of the trees for the client at the end to make sure they're fresh and not being out in the sun. And then they'll go right into water, and we'll touch on that. But right now, that's the mission for the rest of Sunday, is to get this bin shaded. And then we've got this week to come up. We'll probably have 2-man crew out here, I don't know, a maximum of 10 hours combined, and then we'll push next Friday and Saturday. And believe it or not, trees will be in next Sunday. So it's all about a time crunch, but nothing really stresses these guys because they've been there before. Thank God for a seasoned veteran crew, because it used to be my brother and I when we first started, at least in Florida. And this is a much better approach. Thank you.